Hello everyone! I'm Yuta, thank you for watching. I worked hard to make this video, so that everyone around the world can enjoy it, so I hope you'll watch it until the end. I'd be happy if you could feel free to like and comment. This time, I'm going on a wonderful trip around the world, with you all. This journey will take you through ancient legends and myths, from around the world. Let's take a look at these grand, and mysterious stories, that have been passed down, for thousands of years, and see what lessons they can teach us, and what laughs they can bring us. Every myth is part of each country, and culture, and its background is full of history, and people's beliefs. So let's set off to the first country.
Chapter 1 Greek Mythology. The mayhem of the Olympian gods. The first place we visit is ancient Greece. Under the beautiful blue sky, the sparkling Aegean Sea is where our story begins. In Greek mythology, many gods live on Mount Olympus, the summit of a mountain. These gods are powerful and sometimes terrifying beings, yet somehow they are also very human characters. First up is Zeus, the supreme god in Greek mythology. Zeus is known as the king of the gods, and has the power to control thunder. He holds a giant lightning bolt in his hand, and can throw it to knock down enemies, or make the earth shake. Although Zeus has such great power, he also has many human weaknesses. One of them is his infidelity. Zeus often fell in love with mortal women and other gods, which often caused him problems. For example, Zeus once fell in love with a human woman named Leda. Zeus transformed himself into a swan and flew to Leda to seduce her. Yes, it's a swan. Oh, what a beautiful swan, Leda thought, as she was entranced. And Zeus seduced her. I'll tempt you. However, Zeus's actions infuriated his wife, Hera. Hera is the queen of Olympus, and a very strong-willed goddess. She is the protector of the family, and will never forgive her husband, Zeus, for cheating on her. Every time Zeus cheated on her, Hera would get angry and say, "You did it again? How many times have you done it?" Each time, Zeus, "No. This time it was a misunderstanding. It's really not that," he said, desperately trying to explain himself. But Hera's anger did not subside at all. Zeus would suffer the wrath of Hera again and again. But Zeus isn't the only one. Olympus is filled with many unique and individual gods. For example, Apollo is known as the sun god, light, music, and prophecy. He plays a golden harp and charms gods and people with his beautiful music. He is a musical genius. Apollo has a few problems too. One day, Apollo was challenged to a musical contest. His opponent is a half-human, half-bird monster called Siren. Siren also has a great talent for music, and she engages in fierce battles with Apollo. However, Apollo made a mistake in the music. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right. What was next? You start to panic. His pride doesn't allow it, and although he manages to turn things around, in the end, it's a bit of a cold sweat. There are many gods in Greek mythology, each with their own unique story. Their actions are sometimes silly, and sometimes brave, making us laugh, and teaching us lessons. Chapter 2 The Adventures of Thor and Loki. In Norse mythology. Next trip to Northern Europe. This region, with its long, cold winters, is home to many myths about brave warriors and gods. The most famous of these are Thor, the god of thunder, and Loki, the god of mischief. These two are indispensable characters in Norse mythology, and their adventures never fail to amaze and entertain. First, Thor. He is the god of thunder and storms and wields a giant hammer that can kill giants with one blow. I have Mjolnir. Thor is one of the most powerful men in Norse mythology and fights bravely and stronger than anyone else on the battlefield. However, even the strongest Thor has a weakness, and that is his simplicity. Thor is very impulsive and always tries to solve problems by force. But his simplicity is sometimes taken advantage of by Loki. Loki is a god, known as a trickster, who is always up for mischief and loves to tease Thor. Although Loki is intelligent, he can also be a bit mischievous, which often gets Thor in trouble. One day Loki told Thor, "I think your hammer has disappeared somewhere." He jokes, but the hammer is actually stolen by the giant. Without this precious hammer, Thor would not be invincible. So what will Thor do? Thor enlists Loki's help and makes a plan to infiltrate the giant's palace. However, the plan was Thor disguised as a bride and infiltrated the giant's banquet. At the banquet, this bride seems to be eating a lot. He wonders, but doesn't realize it's Thor. In the end, Thor gets his hammer back during the feast and kills all the giants. The giants could only be dumbfounded at this development. The adventures of Loki and Thor are some of the most popular stories in Norse mythology, and their humor and thrills continue to fascinate many. Chapter 3: Asian Legends, Heroes of China and Japan. Next we will visit Asia, a continent with magnificent civilizations and a long history. The region is home to many legends and myths, some of which are particularly well-known characters and stories. Here we will take a look at the worlds of Chinese and Japanese mythology. The adventures of the Chinese legend Sun Wukong. First, let's start with the most famous Chinese legend, Sun Wukong. He is a monkey born from stone and is already unusual from birth. Sun Wukong started out as just an ordinary monkey, but thanks to his natural talent and strong curiosity, he gained various powers. He is the strongest hero who can fly, has 72 different transformation techniques, and can fight on equal terms with powerful enemies. But Sun Wukong has one very big problem. That is a very naughty and troublesome child. He never sits still and is always up for mischief and adventure. Even in heaven, there are constant cries of Sun Wukong has caused trouble again. One day, Wukong was not satisfied with his own strength and got carried away and asked, "Who is the greatest in heaven?" The gods of heaven could not bear this, so in order to calm Wukong down, a great Buddhist master called Shakyamuni stood in his way. Wukong boasts, "I am the best in heaven." But Shakyamuni smiles quietly and says, "If you can escape these hands, you're the best," he says. Wukong says, "That's easy," and flies into the air with incredible speed. "No matter how far I flew in the end, I could never match the wisdom of the Buddha, who was in the palm of his hand." Although Sun Wukong always causes some kind of trouble. His purity and courage, and his boundless curiosity, makes him a fascinating character in the story. Later he and his master, the hero, embarks on an adventure called Journey to the West, and faces many difficulties. This journey is a famous story told throughout China, and Sun Goku grows through his adventures. Japanese mythology. Susanoo and Yamata no Orochi. Next stop, Japan. Japanese mythology strongly expresses a sense of reverence for nature and gods, and many characters in particular personify the power of nature. The most famous of these is the god Susanoo. Susanoo is the god of storms and the sea, and can be very violent and reckless at times. One of the most famous stories of Susanoo is the slaying of Yamata no Orochi. Yamata no Orochi is a giant snake with 8 heads and 8 tails. It's a very scary monster. Every year, Yamata no Orochi demanded a young girl as a sacrifice, and the people lived in fear of him. When Susanoo visited a certain village, he learns that a beautiful girl from the village has been chosen as the next sacrifice for Yamata no Orochi. Susanoo and the villagers come up with a plan to save the girl. The plan was to get Yamata no Orochi drunk. Susanoo is Yamata no Orochi's favorite food. Prepare a large amount of alcohol and place it in front of the monster. When Yamata no Orochi saw the alcohol, his eyes lit up, and he drank it all in one go, with all 8 of his heads. Naturally, Yamata no Orochi becomes drunk and slows down. Not missing this opportunity, Susanoo swung down his giant sword and defeated Yamata no Orochi. This brave act was later retold in Japanese mythology, and Susanoo came to be worshipped as a hero. This story is not just about defeating monsters, but also teaches us the lesson that people with wisdom and courage can overcome great difficulties by joining forces. Chapter 4: African Legends, Wise Animals and Brave Heroes. Next up, Africa. African legends and myths are deeply connected to nature, and animals play a central role in many stories. In particular, the sight of animals using their intelligence and fighting bravely, like humans, is easy for children to understand and is fascinating. The Adventures of Anwari, the Clever Rabbit. Anwari is a rabbit trickster who is often told in African folk tales. Anwari uses his small size to outwit larger, stronger animals like lions and elephants. His stories always bring laughter and surprises. For example, one day a lion, "Today I'm going to catch you and eat you," he said, chasing Anwari. But Anwari remained calm. "If you can catch him, I'll give you everything I have," he said, gently taunting him. The lion becomes enraged and tries to corner Anwari, but Anwari cleverly sets a trap and eventually defeats the lion. Anwari's intelligence and speed surpass those of any other large animal, and he always uses his cleverness to get through difficult situations. Shaka Zulu, the African hero. African legends also feature brave human heroes. The most famous is Shaka Zulu. he made his name in history as the king of the Zulu people, defeating his enemies with wisdom and strategy. Shaka always calmly assessed the situation. On the battlefield, they use brilliant tactics that say, "If I move like this here, everything will lead to victory." Under Shaka's leadership, his soldiers won numerous battles, and their fame spread throughout Africa. The story of Shaka Zulu is one of courage, wisdom, and it conveys the importance of leadership. He was not just a warrior, but an excellent leader who led his tribe, and his decisiveness made him a legendary figure. Chapter 5: Egyptian Mythology. The Guardian of the Nile and the Mysterious World. Next, let's go to ancient Egypt, the land of the desert and the Nile River. This area is home to many ruins, including pyramids and the Sphinx, that remain shrouded in mystery, even today. And behind it all, magnificent myths and legends have been passed down. Egyptian mythology strongly reflects the concepts of afterlife and rebirth, and the gods that appear are depicted as highly symbolic and mysterious beings. The story of love and resurrection of Osiris and Isis. First, let me introduce you to one of the most famous stories from Egyptian mythology, the story of Osiris and Isis. Osiris is the Egyptian god of death and resurrection, and his wife Isis is the goddess of love and magic. These two are known as some of the most important characters in Egyptian mythology. Osiris was a wise and just ruler of Egypt, leading the country to great prosperity. But he had a brother named Set. Set was extremely jealous of Osiris. Set plots to dethrone Osiris. One day, Set hosted a lavish banquet and invited Osiris to the event. So they trick him, put him in a coffin, and throw him into the Nile. With Osiris gone, the whole country is in mourning. However, Isis continues to use her magical powers to search for her husband, Osiris. Finally, they found Osiris' body downstream of the Nile and succeeded in bringing him back to life. This is a highly symbolic event in Egyptian mythology, with the resurrection of Osiris symbolizing the afterlife and the power of rebirth. This story expresses an important theme in Egyptian mythology: death and rebirth, and also emphasizes the power of marital love and family ties. The strong will and love of Isis. This made her not just a wizard, but one of the most revered of the gods. The daily battles of the sun god Ra. Next up is Ra, the most powerful god in Egyptian mythology. Ra is the sun god who travels across the sky as the sun during the day and into the underworld at night. To the Egyptians, the sun was the source of life, and therefore Ra was highly worshipped. However, this cycle of the sun rising and setting every day actually hides an epic battle. At night, Ra would travel through the underworld, and on his way, he encountered a giant snake monster called Apophis. Apophis is the symbol of chaos and waits every night to devour Ra, the sun god. Ra uses his great powers to battle Apophis every night. Apophis is a gigantic, immortal creature who will come back to life, no matter how many times he is defeated. But Ra never gives up, and continues to fight this battle every night. And when he finally wins, dawn breaks. The sun rises again, and a new day begins. This story is a mythological representation of the cycle of nature, showing the cycle of life through the alternation of day and night. Every time the sun rose, the Egyptians celebrated Ra's victory and thanked him for his power. Chapter 6: Legends of Latin America, Maya and Aztec mythology. Next, we will travel to the Mayan and Aztec civilizations of Central and South America. There are still many mysteries surrounding this region. Ancient civilizations flourished, and the stories of the gods they believed in were grand and sometimes terrifying. The mythology of these civilizations was deeply rooted in a reverence for nature and the heavens, with natural phenomena such as the sun, moon, and rain being deified, the sun god, and the blood ritual. The Aztecs believed that the sun was the source of life, and that blood offerings were needed to keep the sun going. According to Aztec mythology, the sun god, Huitzilopochtli, was able to travel across the sky every day by consuming human blood. That's why the Aztecs offered many sacrifices to their gods and prayed for the sun to keep moving without stopping. This myth symbolizes the importance of sacrifice in Aztec culture and emphasizes the reverence for the powers of nature and the role of humans in maintaining them. The blood ritual was very solemn and terrifying. At the same time, it was believed that this would give the sun god strength to light the sky again. Mayan creation myth. Meanwhile, Mayan mythology contains a grand story about the creation of the world. The Mayans believed that the universe was created in 4 major cycles. During this process, various gods created humans through trial and error. The first person to be created was a mud man. However, the man made of mud could not keep his shape and quickly fell apart. The next person to be created was a wooden man. The wooden humans were able to maintain their form, but they lacked emotion and intelligence, and were simply insensible beings. Finally, the gods created humans from the corn. This human being made from corn is said to be the ancestor of modern humans, a perfect being with intelligence and emotions. This creation myth was very important to the Mayans and is deeply connected to their agricultural culture. Corn in particular was a sacred food for the Maya, and its existence was life itself. Through these myths they understood the connection between their world and the forces of nature. Chapter 7: Celtic mythology, elf forests and druid wisdom. Next, we visit the Celtic culture of ancient Europe. Celtic mythology was closely linked to nature, and it was believed that gods, spirits and fairies lived in the lush forests, rivers and mountains. This mythology features many gods and supernatural beings, and the stories portray the mysteries of nature and magical powers. Morrigan, queen of the fairies, and the myth of battle. One of the most famous Celtic goddesses is the Morrigan, the goddess of war and destiny. She is depicted as transforming into a black crow and flying around the battlefield, predicting victory, defeat, and death. The Morrigan played a vital role in Celtic mythology, as her appearance was a source of fear for warriors, and her prophecies were expected to come true. One day, the Celtic hero Cuchulainn encounters the Morrigan during a fierce battle that will determine his fate. Morrigan promises him victory in exchange for swearing fealty to her, but Cuchulainn refuses. Morrigan was enraged by this and vowed to take revenge on Cuchulainn, transforming into various forms to try and hinder him in battle. Morrigan sometimes turns into a beautiful young woman, sometimes transforming into a cow or a crow. She continues to be involved in Cuchulainn's fate. However, just as she had predicted, Cuchulainn was ultimately fatally wounded and met a tragic end. The story depicts the inescapable fate of warriors and the difficulty of defying the power of the gods. The Morrigan's mysterious and terrifying appearance symbolizes the harshness of nature and the unpredictability of fate. Her presence was a reminder to the Celts of the inevitable changes and challenges, not just in battle, but in life in general. Druid wisdom and mystical powers. Celtic culture has a close relationship with nature. Druids were religious leaders. They were said to have knowledge of nature and magical powers, and were involved in festivals, rituals, and prophecies, playing a very important role in Celtic society. The Druids understood the cycles of nature, the movements of the stars, and the power of animals and plants, and used this knowledge to guide their people. For example, Druids performed rituals at full moons and seasonal changes to try to communicate with the gods and predict the future. They also used herbs and spells to heal illnesses and to use the power of nature to solve difficult problems. To the Celts, Druids were symbols of wisdom, and their words and prophecies were accepted with absolute trust. Chapter 8: Native American Mythology. Teachings in harmony with nature. Our next journey will take us to the vast American continent, the world of the indigenous peoples. Native American mythology places great importance on harmony with nature and animals. Weather and landforms are often deified. They have treasured nature and have continued to pass on the wisdom of how to live within it. Myths are not just stories, but also important guides that teach life lessons and connect us to the natural world, the creator god Ikatomi, and the birth of the world. Some Native American tribes refer to Ikatomi as a creator god. Ikatomi is a mischievous, trickster-like being, but at the same time, he is also a god with the power to create the world. His stories are often humorous and sometimes moral. One day Ikatomi was very bored. After pondering whether there was something interesting he could do, he decided to create life on the earth in a place that had no life. Ikatomi first uses soil and water to create the earth. I let the animals out there. He gave freedom to the animals, and the birds flew in the sky, and the deer ran on the ground. And I made a fish that swam in the river. Ikatomi was very pleased with his creation. Now I won't be bored anymore, I thought happily. But Ikatomi made one mistake. It's just to have a little fun for myself. We've given the animals too much freedom. The animals did not do what Ikatomi wanted, and sometimes even teased him. Why are you all so carefree? Ikatomi said angrily. The animals laughed. That's because you made it that way, he replied. This story teaches us that even the Creator is not completely in control of what He creates. It also symbolizes how natural life is unrestrained and uncontrollable. The eagle's protection and connection to heaven. The eagle is considered a sacred being by many Native American tribes. The great eagle flies high in the sky, connects heaven and earth, and acts as a spiritual guardian. Eagle feathers were believed to have special powers and played an important role in ceremonies and festivals. In the mythology of one tribe, the great eagle lives in the heavens and appears to impart wisdom to people when they are facing difficulties. One day, when the tribe's village was suffering from drought, a giant eagle appeared and told the people to pray to connect the earth and the heavens. The people followed the eagle's words and prayed. A few days later, rain began to fall. The drought was lifted, and crops began to ripen. This myth teaches us the importance of harmony with nature. It teaches that humans are powerless against the forces of nature, and that in order to survive, we need to have humility and gratitude. The eagle is a symbol of nature, and at the same time, a reminder that humans are part of nature.